Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys Podcast, the greatest show on earth. Today, I am your fearless host and leader, Mr. Scott Howell, with I Protect Insurance and Financial Services based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama. First team parade All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Please stand and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
You want to know what the number one question I got at Agent 2021 was? Or the number one statement? Holy crap, you're really not 6'3".
Oh, my gosh.
Literally everybody.
Guys, I am blessed, honored, and humbled to be joined today. Before I introduce him, let me say this, guys. Our mission on this podcast is to do anything we can to help you agents be successful out there. Sales, marketing, accounting, bookkeeping, hiring, firing, how to sell life insurance, hint, hint. We just got off a podcast talking about YouTube social media strategies today.
Joey Gingola, shout out Joey.
Fantastic episode, step-by-step instructions done Big Bird style so that everybody listening can take notes. And as I always like to say, write that shit down. Today we are honored, and I have the pleasure of introducing our guest today, guys. And when I have somebody in studio, Bradley, as you know, the
energy level is like
rocket fuel.
He looked at me after this episode, and I said, or after the last episode, and I said, our next guest is here, and he's like, in studio. He's in studio. I'm like, yeah, he's right there sitting on the couch.
Yeah, and I got a fantastic picture of us together, by the way. Guys, today I am honored, blessed, and humbled to introduce our guest today. So he lives in Pensacola, Florida. He is a graduate from the University of South Alabama. He is the owner and founder at Atlas Financial Strategies. He is a fee-based financial advisor. He consistently posts Monday motivations on Facebook, and he has a beautiful wife named Amanda, a 3.5-year-old daughter named Maddie, and they are expecting their first boy. You have no idea what you're in store for. I mean, it is fantastic. Guys, he is a 6-time MDRT qualifier. For you guys in the world of financial services and life insurance, I'm going to say it again. You better write this shit down today, guys, because when you
there's
have
no higher award in that industry.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my humbled honor to introduce to you the other incomparable Mr. Andrew Martin. How are you, Andrew?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today, bro.
We're going to high five. We're going to high five. I never get to high five guests because they're on the phone.
Guys, I want to talk a little bit to Andrew today, or a lot today, about positioning yourself as a trusted advisor, which we talked a little bit before we got started today. We want to talk a little bit about that, and we want to do some real down-in-the-dirt, step-by-step instructions on I'm a P&C agent. I'm struggling with life and financial services. Let me be the first to raise my hand and say I'm one of those guys. And we're going to get down in the dirt about that today a little bit and try to help you guys become better at selling life insurance and financial services. But before we do all that, Andrew, I want you to sit down in the passenger seat of my DeLorean for just a moment and go back in time and tell everybody about how you got started in the insurance business and financial services business.
Sure. So I came straight out of college, got my start with New York Life, phenomenal company, and their focus is largely life insurance. And of course, that's what I cut my teeth on doing. And 90-some-odd% of the way they train us is to sell life insurance. And they have some of the top training in the industry. And anyway, so, for you P&C guys, that, probably the majority of your training is centered around P&C, and it's probably 80-20, 80% P&C, maybe 20% life. Hopefully I'm able to give you some nuggets that you can immediately take and start applying, and that really aren't hard, that, you may have to practice just a tad, but, nothing that you're going to have to really study up on or anything. It's pretty common sense stuff, and we live in a world of language, so it's all about, the words that you use and how you position things, and how, if you can't, psychologically, people avoid what they don't understand. So if you can't explain things in a way that people understand and grasp them and go, I never really thought about it that way. Yep. Well, then they're just going to avoid it. And that is one of the best compliments that I get from clients, and I get it a lot, is I get the compliment that I'm able to explain things to them in a way that they go, the way you explained it made total sense. I've never had anybody explain it like that before.
It's so important.
It's one of the most important things. If people, regardless of what you're trying to explain, if you can't explain it in a way that makes sense, and people don't care what these things do, what any of these products do. Nobody cares. They care what it does for them.
Right.
So if you can't relate it in a way that says, if you're product centric and talking about the benefits of this product, nobody cares. What's it going to do for me?
Yep.
That's what they care about.
I attended a seminar last week. I was one of the presenters, and the presenter after me used industry jargon, acronyms, and crap
Thank God I wasn't there.
Crap that the audience, doesn't know, nor do they care. And it was, I'm not going to say what it was centered around, but it was centered around, a service that this person would need. I'm like, just tell them, tell them the process, tell them what you're going to do for them. You don't have to explain to them what this thing is. I'm struggling because I don't want to give it away, but it's just, I think that's one thing a lot of people miss, especially in insurance, because there's so much jargon that people miss. And I said I was a presenter to say is the insurance guy confused people the least out of everybody. And if the insurance guy confuses people the least, that shows you where everybody was.
So before we get started today, I have a confession to make. So 2 days ago, I was on the phone for about an hour with one of our podcast listeners. Her name is Laura Allen. Shout out to Laura. She is in Duluth, Georgia. And in the middle of that conversation, I got up in the trust tree with Laura, and I said this. I said, Laura, I want you to remember something. If you never listen to anything I say, I want you to listen to this. And I told her, I said, I'm speaking to me more than I am you. If I am in this industry for another 20 years and I don't Jedi mind screw myself into believing in myself enough and having the mental fortitude to have a successful financial services side to my business, it will be at the age of 65 when I get my gold watch and I ride off in the sunset, will be the biggest failure, not my career, my life. Listen to me, people. It will be the biggest failure of my life because I am 47 years old. And when people meet me, they freaking trust me. They believe the words coming out of my mouth. And I could sell the shit out of some financial services. I don't care what it is. Annuities, life insurance, 401k. I don't give a damn. I could sell all of it. But there's something inside me mentally, and maybe Andrew can address this today. I don't know. But there's something inside me that is keeping me from doing that. And it disgusts me. It disgusts me because I know how much money I'm leaving on the table, literally, probably millions of dollars. Now, that millions of dollars translates into millions of dollars in commissions that I could be spending on my wife, on my kid, my son. I could put towards retirement. I could help my parents out. It absolutely disgusts me that I am so chicken shit to go out and do something that I absolutely 1,000% know I would be good at, and I don't do it.
Are you talking about selling life insurance?
I'm talking about all of it, financial services in general. It will be the biggest failure of my life if at 65 years old I don't have a financial services book of business. The end, period, end of story.
Mic drop, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that said, let's go back and start talking about how we can help agents that are just like Scott Howell that knock the bottom out of it in P&C. Home and auto sales, I'll go up against anybody in the nation. I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anybody. Commercial insurance, I'll go up against anybody. I don't give a damn if you've been with McGriff-Siebels working as a commercial insurance agent for 475 years. Let's go up against each other and see who wins. I am that confident in my ability. But when it comes to financial services, no. So let's talk about how we get guys and girls like me to go out there every day and start selling financial services and get over that.
Did Pepsi pay you for that plug?
No, they didn't. I wish they would.
Should.
They should. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to the starting line.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the way you dress. I mean, I've got a cowboy hat, T-shirt, and blue jeans on right now with some boots, but I can go back to my I could go back to my hotel right now and put a Brooks Brothers suit on, and you'd think I worked
in with a Brooks Brothers jacket
on Wall Street. How does that play into this? Dress, the tonality, how you speak to people. how you interact with people. How does all that play into this?
Yeah, how you carry yourself and how you present yourself is very important. And I'm the kind of guy, and people that only know me in a professional setting are usually shocked, if they see me outside of
they don't recognize
professional
you
setting. Well, because we had New York Life had a thing at had like their annual kickoff or whatever, and
right.
It was at the casino, and so they did dinner and an awards thing and stuff, and that's all, you're professionally dressed, and then we could go to the casino afterwards. So I put on sweatpants and a t-shirt and flip flops.
That's my
You know
boy.
what I mean?
That's my dog.
Yeah, and I mean people were like, and I got hot, so I even like rolled the
I
rolled them
love
up.
it. That's a Scott Howell move.
Yeah, so
old school, baby.
And that's me, and I mean the car I drive, like I have a newer, I mean, it's not but like I would drive my dad's old blue Chevy Silverado pickup, rusted, I don't care. But in this position, you don't want to drive a Porsche and people go, oh, well, that's where all my money's going.
Exactly.
But
you don't want to be in a,
you don't want to be in a beater.
Clunker either.
Yeah. It's a nice middle ground. So, I mean, how you, not just how you present yourself, but also you need to be confidence, of course, is key. Mm-hmm. That's with everything. And so, I spend a lot of time, I spend 12 to 15 hours a week on reading and research so that I can be
sharpening your saw.
In my mind, hopefully nobody's working as hard and doing the research and stuff that I am. So I'm walking around like, if you want the best financial plan you can get, you work with this dude because nobody's going to outwork me on that. And I'm keeping up with what's going on. But also, and that gives you the confidence of whatever you got, I'm the guy. Mm-hmm. Not only how you present yourself, but also, you need to be respectable. You need to be truthful, and sometimes even I'm overly truthful sometimes, not necessarily telling people what they want to hear, but telling them what they maybe need to hear. Mm-hmm. But anyways, people know that I'm not you know
what I always say, don't you?
What's that?
If you really want to piss somebody off, tell them the truth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Unpleasant truths versus pleasant fictions, right? But
right.
No, so just people need to know that what you tell them is gold, and there's no, if you don't know something, don't make it up. Tell them you don't know. Say, look, I'm going to have to go back before I give you, I'm 90% sure, but before I give you an incorrect answer, let me go back and make sure, and then I will come back and tell you. That kind of stuff is super important. And to your point, I think, so you were talking about, adding great at PNC, but maybe not so great at some of the other financial services.
Understatement.
I think a lot of particularly PNCs, and that was a big transition for me, as I've always, from the beginning of my career, have wanted to be a trusted advisor with my clients instead of being so damn transactional, which I feel like a lot of, I don't know, y'all would know better than I do, so tell me if I'm wrong, in the PNC world, maybe transactional. Hey, let me quote your homeowner's insurance and your car insurance. And great, if I can save you money, come on over.
They are, because it's easy to fall into that. It's easy to default to that because everybody's commoditized it so much.
Well, and let me tell you what, guys, if you're a PNC guy and you're commoditizing yourself and, hey, let me shop out if I can save you money. Like, people are, it's a known thing now. People are aware of the fact that they should shop out their home and auto every so often. Well, if you're just the low price guy and you have no further relationship with them than that, then, guess what? As soon as somebody else offers them a lower price, they're going to go to them. So if you're not positioning yourself as an advisor and helping them with the other lines of business that you're able to do, and Bradley was, we were talking about before the podcast, being the connector, being the trusted, where people are coming to you to say, hey, do you know a good attorney? Do you know a good this? Do you know a good that? And you're the resource, and you're the go-to guy, and you're the person that has relationships and connections with people that can, anyways, if you're just shopping out their PNC, and if you're not talking to them about retirement, if you're not talking to them about their even just the foundation of their financial plan, their life insurance, if you're not helping them, like, you don't have a will, that's crazy. You need to go get a will. You need to talk to my, attorney friend, go get that done. You're not going to lose their home and auto business. If you do, because the company that you represent, if you're a captive agent, if they just, aren't writing the business anymore or whatever, they're coming back to you. As soon as they can, they're coming back to you. They're going to keep the relationship with you. Instead of being so damn transactional, I feel like that's the trap.
Right.
So do you think there's a lot of agents out there who are simply in it for the best interest of the client, and they'll not write something because it's not in the best interest of the client. There are also agents out there and financial advisors who are transactional and are pushing a product. Nothing wrong with that, because a lot of times crap rolls downhill and they're forced to do things like that. My question to you is, just because I think it'll be good dialogue, do you think you can fake it? Do you think you can fake it to, I'm trying to do something in the best interest of you, but at the same time, you've got this hidden agenda. I really just want to sell you a freaking life insurance policy. I don't care what you buy. I don't care how much. I just want to sell you the most that you can buy, that you will buy today. And I don't care about down the road. And the reason I say this is because I know there's people out there that do that.
Well, and what Scott was alluding to earlier, like if you don't believe in what you're doing, you don't have that confidence. People know. Like, you ever met that person where you're like, I don't know why I don't trust them, but I don't trust them. And it's because they're not trusting what they're saying to you. Like, they know they're feeding you shit, and so they don't even trust what they're saying to you, and that you know that. So if you're meeting with somebody and you have it's commission breath, you know what I'm saying? It's
like that.
It's like, for the guys out
That's
there.
going on a meme, guys. Get ready.
That's the title of this episode.
Commission breath. So, I mean, guys, if y'all guys will understand this maybe more than the ladies listening, but in your single days when you went out and you were trying to
Don't forget, we're on Instagram.
What, can
I'm
I
kidding.
not? Okay.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, when you were going out trying to get laid, girls can
Never happened.
Girls can smell
Or
that
for
on
me,
you,
it never
man.
happened, whether I was trying or not trying. But anyway, go
But
ahead.
you can. It's
I get
the
your point.
equivalent of the guy, and I used to work with a guy like this. Guy goes into the bar, hits on every girl in the bar. One says yes. He sold insurance the same way. Go into restaurant, ask everybody in there to buy life insurance. Somebody's going to say yes just to make you go away.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Law of large
But
numbers.
but you're right. I talked to a group of new home buyers the other day, and I said, when you go to buy your home insurance, ask that person. This goes back to believing in your product. I don't think you can ethically sell a product that you do not own yourself, and
or that you don't believe in. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think if you would own it, I had a buddy. I did a Facebook post about that years ago, and a buddy of mine who actually worked at a jewelry store said, "I sell Rolexes, but I can't afford a Rolex." And I said, "I bet you'd sell more of them if you bought one."
You had one sitting on your wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the one I have.
Yep.
But not only that, you know absolutely everything you possibly can about that Rolex. But anyway, I was talking to these new home buyers, and there was a couple there from Germany, just moved to the U.S., spoke a little English, and I said, when you're buying your home insurance from an agent, I want you to ask them a variation of this one question. Do you write your own insurance? Or, do you have your insurance with this company you're trying to sell me? Or, if I was your son, daughter, sister, brother, cousin, aunt, uncle,
I get asked that all the time.
what company would you write me in? Because I guarantee you, if they're an independent, obviously an independent agent might offer 40 different companies. They can't buy a product from every company. But if I was your daughter sitting here, what company would you put me in? And I guarantee you that it might be a $40 more premium, but I would go with this one. You know what I mean? So I think that going back to believing in your product is, do you practice what you preach? Now, I know we kind of went on a tangent there, but that's something that I very strongly believe in.
No, and that's an excellent point. It's an excellent point.
So let's talk to the 250,000 insurance agents that are listening to this podcast who are exactly like me. Well, not all of them, but some of them. I would say the vast majority. Most P&C agents you talk to that are that don't have some kind of quota from the company that they represent don't sell life insurance very much. I mean, they do, but it's more
missing the boat.
Well, yeah,
missing the boat and underserving the client.
It's
underserving the client's the more important of the two.
Yeah.
Well, I would say most insurance agents that are in the P&C world, especially independents, the only time they're selling a life product is when somebody literally calls their office and says, "Hey, do you sell life insurance?" I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do at my office. You think we're calling anybody today to sell some life insurance? Hell no.
Yeah.
But, once a month, we'll have somebody call and say, "Hey, by the way, do y'all sell life insurance?" And we might sell them something.
Well, let's go back to – sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think all people, and shockingly maybe even P&C guys, but don't maybe understand how incredibly important life insurance is.
Truth.
So, I mean, most people, I forget the statistics, but most people are either grossly underinsured or uninsured altogether. And it's I literally am at the point now where I get angry when I know that there is a person with children who has no or very little life insurance. Like I literally am angry at the person. I'm judging them hardcore of like, you're a, blankety blank adult.
Right.
With people depending on you.
Right.
And you don't have the freaking sense to make sure that if something happens to you, you work your ass off. You work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to provide for them. You die. Then what happened? Why do you work your ass off? Would you work that way if you didn't have to? You work that way to provide for them.
Absolutely.
So if you're not here to provide for them, then what happens to them? And so if you've never had anything, a lot of times, unfortunately, we humans learn things the hard way, and it takes something tragic to happen to them or somebody they know to kind of give them that kick in the ass. And so to kind of share, October 2013, my best friend in the world got in a car wreck and passed away. I'm sorry for your loss. I appreciate that. And he was it is true that they say the good ones die young. He was an incredible guy and left a big impact on everybody that knew him. People, I think it was Maya Angelou or somebody said, people don't remember what you said or what you do, or some people remember how you make them feel.
Absolutely. And
his name was Brandon, and he made everybody feel special. And it was
one of those guys.
Yeah, he was one of those guys. And so his wedding was the following month. His wedding was next month.
Wow.
And so we're best friends. We went to elementary school together, middle school together, high school together. We were always, we were drinking buddies. We, went and hang out. I mean, we were very, very good. My parents were his second parents, mine, all that. And so, we obviously knew each other very well. He knew what I did. And so he and I never had the conversation with him because, number one, it's an unpleasant conversation to have with anybody, but much less somebody you really know or your best friend or whatever.
It can go on the awkward side.
Yeah. And I mean, so, and I'll get to a point on that in just a second, but, so I never had the conversation with him because at the time I was like, well, he's single, he doesn't have kids. Like I tried to, rationalize, well, there's no real need for him to have life insurance right now, right? But his wedding is next month. After the wedding, I'll be married. I'll have an excuse to talk to him about it. I'll talk to him about it then. And so, that time never came, obviously. So his fiance is a good friend of mine as well. And so he passed away on a, early Sunday morning. Monday, I talked to his fiance, who's a good friend of mine. So a mutual friend called me Sunday and let me know. And then Monday, I talked to his fiance. Come to find out, she's 7 weeks pregnant. So he did have a baby that nobody knew about because she's not telling anybody when you're 7 weeks pregnant. So, I felt like a real dick. Sorry, can I say that? Oh, yeah. I felt like a real dick showing up to his funeral. And I mean, he had a little bit of life insurance through work, but not, and like there was a GoFundMe for, they needed money was a concern. And he and I had the kind of relationship that I could have slid over a paper to him and said, sign this, dude. It's going to be $50 a month.
Right.
I just need you to trust me on it.
Right.
And he would have said, yeah, no problem. Never would have asked what it was.
I've had literally almost the exact same thing happen to me with a little bit less close of a friend. How much of a piece of crap did you feel like when you saw that GoFundMe? Because I know I did.
Oh my God. Yeah. No,
and you shouldn't, but at the same time, it's like, God, I could have prevented so much. You know what I mean? And I say that not to kick you.
No.
For the listeners, because I don't want that to happen to anybody else.
Absolutely. Well, I felt like from a professional and personal, so as a friend, I feel like I failed you because the average person doesn't know or doesn't think about that. And I had the, the knowledge to, or whatever, just because of what I did, to be able to be like, bro, have you thought about that? Like as a friend.
Even if you weren't in the business.
Yeah. Like, but I just knew how important it was.
Dog, like, come on,
Yeah, you got, like, if, you ever thought about that? You might want to do that. But then as a professional, I'm like, well, what kind of professional am I where somebody this close to me, I never even brought it up to them. Not just as a friend to friend, I should have said something. But as a professional, I'm like, so I felt like I really did feel like I completely failed, somebody that was very important to me.
But it happens. God does things for a reason,
right?
And you can learn from it and make sure that never happens to anyone you know or any client ever again.
That was the promise I made myself. I said, if I have to go to another friend's funeral I can go knowing you can stop talking to me if you think I'm bugging you. You can get, I don't care, but I'm going to have a clean conscience to know that I at least did my part. I can't make you do anything, and so I started the rule. After that, I started the rule that if you're going to work with me, so I have a lot of people come to me for retirement planning and everything else.
I love this, what you're about to say, yeah.
Well, I'm sure you know what I'm about to say. I have a rule that if you don't have a sufficient amount of life insurance, I'm not working with you. It doesn't have to be through me. I don't care who it's through. Get it through, if you got a buddy that does it, I don't care. Get it once you have that. So like I had another friend who I played Little League Baseball with. I've known almost my whole life. And so he had, I think maybe one child at that time, married, one child, and maybe one was on the way or something. So he reaches out to me and said, hey man, I want to get together with you and start a Roth IRA. And I was like, okay, cool, come on in, we'll talk about it. So, doing what we do, and like, have the life insurance question. And I think he's got like maybe 50,000 through work or something like that. And I'm like,
which is basically not having life insurance.
Yeah,
you're not going to die working there,
right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, we did a life insurance need calculation. I'm like, well, you're obviously grossly underinsured. Like you need
850,000 underinsured.
Right. You need a lot more than this. And I'm like, I can help you with it. You can go get it through somebody else. Like that's not the important thing. I will be happy to do the Roth IRA for you after you get the life insurance. And so, he was like, well, okay, well, give me a couple months or this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay, and I kept reaching out to him. Oh, I haven't done it yet, this, that, and the other. So fast forward a year and a half later, he reaches out to me again. Hey, man, I want to get together with you. Same conversation. I want to start a Roth IRA. Great. Come in. I assumed, surely, you've gotten life insurance by now.
He thought you forgot.
Well, yeah. So he's got 2 kids now. And so, I'm like, great. You got life insurance, right? No, I haven't gotten any. I said, well, dude, I'm not going to help you with this until you get some life insurance. So I can do it. You can do it. I don't care. You bring me a policy that shows that you have a sufficient amount of life insurance. I'll do this for you until then. And so he's not a client to this day because he refused to get life insurance. Wow. So if I have to go to his funeral, at least I can show up with a clean conscience to know, sorry, I feel sorry for your kids and your wife. And, like they're going to suffer because you're ignorant or hard-headed or whatever you want to call it. But they're the ones that pay, man, not you.
Right. Talk about 6-time MDRT qualifier. When you posted that on Facebook, I'm like, holy crap. That's awesome, man.
Oh, thank you.
That's always been a dream of mine, is to qualify for MDRT. Talk about from obviously you're a guy that you're going to do what the client needs first, and you're worried about you and your business and your sale second, maybe even third. I think a lot of insurance agents and financial advisors, especially when it comes to financial services, we'll sit there and tell somebody, you don't need 25, 50, 25 or 10, 20, 10. You need 100, 300, 100, but let them walk out the door without even mentioning life insurance. I think a lot of people, when it comes to selling financial services, are more worried about them and their commission and, oh, no, you need whole life or you need term, not, what's in the best interest of that client, and how by doing it that way, everybody is conditioned to think, okay, if I'm in it for me and I'm worried about my commission, I'm going to sell more, whether you admit that or not, by sort of being counterintuitive in I'm going to do what's best for the client first, and I'm going to worry about my goal second, how that actually propels you to overachieve in the industry.
So that goes back to stop being so damn transactional. Spend time with the clients, not how quickly can I get this person in and out and make the sale, and then call me when you need me.
Hope you don't.
Yeah, right.
Right.
The more time you spend with this client, the more money it's going to, and the more times you do the right thing for them, even if you could have sold them a bigger life insurance policy or whatever it is, if you do the right thing for them, they're going to come back, and that makes you more referable. Mm-hmm. So they're going to refer you more people because they know you did the right thing for them, because again, people will figure out. They'll either leave there going, I'm not 100% sure I did the right thing, or they're going to figure it out at some point. But, again, it goes back to stop being so transactional, position yourself as a trusted advisor, be the connector, start recommending to them things that you don't do, that you know that they need. And again, by doing that, if you say, hey, you need
umbrella policy.
You need an umbrella policy, or you need a will, you need to go see this attorney, or you need retirement planning. I'm not licensed to do that for you, but I have somebody that I trust implicitly that you can go meet with and get that taken care of.
Andrew, you know what I call that?
What's that?
I've brought this up on the podcast a couple of times. Insurance agents around the world, write this shit down. what I call what Bradley has mentioned already, what Andrew has mentioned already, is becoming the mayor of your village.
Yep.
Ooh. Yep.
Feel free to use that.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if you need your damn watch fixed. If you bring it to Athens, Alabama, to I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, I will help you find somewhere to fix your watch. I don't care. I don't care what it is. I have people call me all the time. Kid needs a job.
Yeah.
Need their watch fixed. Need help with social media. I'm a scratch agent. I'm about to drown. I need help. Spent 4 hours on the phone with 2 different podcast listeners this week trying to figure out how to get them off center. Mayor of the village, guys.
Absolutely.
That is exactly what Andrew's talking about.
Gary
right
actually talked about that at Agent 2021 in his keynote, and he said, I'm sitting here waiting on one, and he said an F-bomb, but I'm sitting here waiting on one of you guys to find the worst pothole in your city and live stream yourself pouring some Quickcrete in it and fixing it.
Exactly.
On,
Wow.
If you go to Scott Howell's personal Facebook page, you'll see a video I posted 2 days ago of my IT guys who'd been in my office working, and I was giving them a shout out. Right? It's becoming the mayor of your village.
And that's more marketing, but what you're doing is you're trying to build that trust with the client that you say, okay, go get a will from this guy. Oh, you need a real estate agent, talk to this guy. And then when you say, hey, look, you need this life insurance, they don't question at all. They know you are recommending the best product for them, right?
And it's a visibility thing, right? If you know everybody and everybody knows you, I mean, I couldn't tell you. There's a guy I know, I'm friends with on Facebook that I don't really know, but he was like, he asked me, he commented on a post, or he asked me some sort of question, and he was like, man, I tell you what, he's like, I work out here at, this hospital, and you got a lot of clients out here, and everybody just speaks so highly of you and everything else, and it's obvious that, your clients love you and you're good at what you do and all that. So, and that's the thing, like the more people like whenever he gets to the point where he needs somebody, I'm sure he'll come to me because the people he knows me.
Right.
And, so being the mayor of your village, being visible and everybody knowing you, that's very important. And at some point before we leave, I would like to kind of walk people through. So we're talking about not being transactional, and I would like to walk people through some verbiage and a process that would be very easy for them and applicable and can leave from here today and use and see it if they do it correctly and actually do it.
Right.
Will be transformative. I'm telling you right now.
Let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead.
Will be transformative.
The Tangible Advice podcast are the best podcasts.
Absolutely.
So if anybody's half-ass listening right now.
No, they are.
Say it, Scott. Say it.
Get the damn pen and paper out right now, people, and write this shit down.
Yeah, stop what you're doing. Listen, write it down. Doesn't matter.
If you're driving, please pull over.
Yes. Yeah, don't write and drive, right? But again, positioning yourself as a trusted advisor, even if you're a P&C guy, even if there's a bunch of stuff that you don't do, have a process you take people through. Process. Stories and using metaphors and analogies and things like that to get people to understand stuff and is hugely transformative and important. So you need to have your own stories or steal somebody else's and make them your own. It doesn't matter. Steal some of the ones that I'm about to use.
Let me interrupt you real quick. Guys, write this down. Scott Howell said this. The best life insurance salespeople that I have ever met in my life, Andrew would fall in that category, have a story.
Yep.
They have a story. And usually, unfortunately, that story is kind of similar to your story.
Yep.
It's best friend, we're eating lunch, next day, dies of a brain aneurysm, leaves a wife and 2 kids. She's a stay-at-home mom, has no way of how she's going to make it now, right?
Right.
I've heard it from the best I've ever heard it from, you being one of them. They all have this same story.
Yeah. Right.
Or something similar to that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sometimes it takes a kick in the ass to get us to, believe strongly in what we do. And that's important too, guys. The passion and the real strong belief in what you're telling the client really makes a difference too. If you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. When you're sitting down with somebody, and so even the current clients that you have now, so if you've never, if people just think of you as a P&C guy, the transactional guy or whatever, you can say whatever you want to say to like, hey, we're trying to better serve our clients, and we just want to make sure that, y'all are getting the information, we're adding as much value as we can. So we've started, we've recently added a process that we want to kind of take clients through. and it can be over the phone or in person. Obviously, in person is best, but over the phone is fine. Or even if you integrate, video conferencing or whatever, that's second best to in person. But say, when you sit down in front of somebody, say, we just want to do kind of a financial planning 101 with everybody, and just to make sure that their financial foundation is in place, because that's the most important thing. And say, so when you build a house, what's the first thing you do? Foundation. And so it's very important to ask these people questions and let them answer.
And by the way, guys, if I don't just tell you to write shit down, I write it down.
He does. You. That's why I don't write anything down during podcasts, because I know
you're cheating.
I know he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's why I picked him for the. I'm kidding.
Hey, Insurance Guys podcast fans, it's producer Johnny Gwynn, and Bradley wanted me to break in this riveting conversation to share some special news. And here it is. This episode's guest, Andrew Martin, will be hosting a webinar teaching these strategies you are hearing on this show. And it's just for us, the IGP Insurance Guys podcast listeners. To register for this webinar, text Andrew, that's spelled ANDREW, Andrew, to 251-418-4724 right now. That's 251-418-4724. And you will be sent a link to reserve your spot for this webinar. And again, sorry for the interruption. And now back to your regularly scheduled Insurance Guys programming.
One of the best P&C agents that I have ever met, he's one of the top life financial planning guys in the country, has trained his agency staff that when someone calls in, let's say they've got a auto billing account that's screwed up, right?
Yep.
Or somebody may call in for a quote, or they have a question about their homeowner's policy. Whatever the question is, he has trained his staff that at some point during that call, they ask this simple question that I don't know why every P&C agency in the country doesn't ask. Who do you have your life insurance with? And they do that for one reason. It starts the conversation.
That's it.
It starts the conversation.
Well, and I'll say this, and this will go, I think, counter to every fiber of a PNC guy's, makeup. But I never give life insurance quotes, ever. If somebody calls the office, hey, I need a life insurance quote. Sorry, you can come in and meet, and we have a process we go through.
Mm-hmm. I do the same thing. Or I did the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's not, I'm not going to give you a life insurance quote because you think you need something that you know shit about, right? So I'm going to take you through the process, make sure you have what you need and the amount you need and everything else. And that's another thing, too. I tell people what is most important is that you have the amount of coverage that you need. Secondly is what type of insurance. So it can be term, whole life, universal, doesn't matter. Yep. If I have to deliver a death claim check to your wife, she is not going to ask me if this was term or whole life.
Yep.
She's going to say, right. what's the amount?
So let me stop you right there, because that was a question I had when this podcast started. I know enough to be dangerous about term, whole life, and some of the what I call exotic, like term index, variable type products.
Sure.
A lot of agents, including myself, I don't know that I know enough about it to know, and I've heard you say this 6 or 7 times, and Bradley, since we've been sitting here, it's understanding what the client needs, right? But if I'm the agent and I don't understand my life products well enough, how do I get to the point where while I'm, we'll say, interviewing this financial planning person, the person that needs this life insurance, how do I get to a point to where I understand my products well enough that as I'm writing this information down, something clicks in my brain and I go, oh, he needs this?
I was just going to say, I agree with Andrew. I don't think it matters as much as the coverage amount. I think you figure out how to calculate how much coverage that person needs, and everything else will take care of itself.
That's right.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was going to say that same thing. Again, it goes back to what is most important is that they have the amount of coverage that they need. So even if you just started with term, and you can tell them, and so it's very important that you set clients' expectations. And if you say things up front, like, hey, look, we're just going to get you the amount of coverage that you need, and maybe even give that little like, hey, what's most important is that you have the amount, not the type. So term being the cheapest for right now. It's not as valuable as some of the other types of insurances, but it gives you the coverage. We know you're covered, and then we can always, assuming you're writing a convertible term that you can convert into another product later.
Don't write a non-convertible term.
That too. And that too. Just say, look, we're going to go ahead and get you covered. We're going to put you through underwriting, and then we'll worry about type second, right? We'll get you the term, and then we can always convert part or all of that into something else later, but let's just get you covered. But then you can, you know what I mean? You can kind of bone up, talk to somebody that's either read up or talk to somebody that's done it, that knows how to help you position that.
So at what point in this conversation, and I agree, I tell my people all the time in the office, you can't sell life insurance over the phone. It is a face-to-face transaction.
Can't sell it
most of the time.
You can't sell it the right way.
Correct.
Is what I would say.
Yeah, everything is better in person.
Right,
but I mean,
right.
I have some clients that are out of town or whatever. And again, it really comes down to how you position it. You know, you can always email documents, or again, a lot of the video conferencing stuff, you can share your screen. Mm-hmm. You can draw, you can type, you can pull up documents and show them.
Sure.
So,
and to get to the amount of coverage you need is the most important.
Yep.
Do you kind of back into that? How early in the process, when you sit down or you're talking to somebody on the phone, do you talk about, what is your budget every month that you can spend on life insurance, so that, because I can give somebody $5 million in coverage, but if they can't pay it every month, the premium, then we know what's going to happen. They're going to have it for 3 months, and then they're going to cancel it. So how do you talk about that?
Again, I start with the amount, and I'll go through here in just a minute. I'll go through kind of the financial, the financial needs and life insurance needs analysis that I do to kind of come up with the amount. Mm-hmm. And then again, a lot of times after you go through everything and after I have the conversation, difference between term and whole life and all that, a lot of people, believe it or not, will go, well, I want whole life. I don't. Term kind of seems like there's a lot more value through the right company and structured the correct way and all that. A whole life can actually be a very good asset. There's a lot of crap out there. But anyways, the point is that, you start with the amount and you get them. And so I'll go through the process here in just a minute, but you get them to, they're giving you their numbers on what their life insurance need is.
Right.
So and you walk them through it. Mm-hmm. And so they just said, well, my life insurance need is this amount. Right. So how much is it going to cost? And so, you go back to, well, it depends on what rating you get and what product you get and all that. That's why you start with term and then say, well, you need this amount.
Right. So
is $20 a month. Everybody has fat in their budget that they can trim.
Sure.
Everybody.
Sure.
Everybody. So $20, $30, $40, $50 a month or whatever that they could trim out from somewhere. If that's that important to them, they can pay for that. Is, your trips to Starbucks more important to you than making sure? So point is, it's like, hey, granted, this might be $20 or $30 a month out of, what your stated budget is. But if you died, would you rather, would you be happy that you saved that $20 or $30 a month, or would you be happier that your family would get that extra hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of life insurance?
Right.
Right. So what's more important to you? You don't have $20 or $30 a month that you can trim the fat from somewhere. You're lying to me if you say you don't.
Right.
You
actually say that to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there again, like I said, I will be overly not aggressive with them or anything, but
necessarily, but just matter of fact.
Yeah, and I say it in a way, and again with in a way, in a kind of a jokingly serious, like you're gonna sit here and tell me, you're lying to me if you don't. I know you do. You know what I mean? I know you do, because everybody does. And most people will concede, you're right, absolutely. And so, and again, there's some people, and look, if it comes down to like, well, my life insurance need is $1 million, and that's going to cost me, I'm making up, that's going to cost me $80 a month. I can only afford $50. What can I get for $50? And if that got them $50 or $500,000 or $600,000 worth of life insurance, well, that's $500,000 or $600,000 more life insurance that they had before they walked into your office.
Absolutely.
So that gets them closer to the $1 million need. It doesn't get them there, but
right.
At least you did your job and got them more life insurance. So I don't know, how much time do we have?
As much as you want, baby.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I'm not.
No, you're good.
Because I want to make sure to walk through.
Let's let him walk through it.
Well, yeah, and let me say this.
Sure.
I think some of the most popular podcasts we've ever had, because I do think we have a lot of life and financial services people that listen to this podcast, have been very, very popular. In fact, at one time you told me our most listened to podcast, I believe, was Tom Hegna, wasn't it?
Until VaynerMedia, but yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Tom's a man.
Yeah, he is.
Tom's
cool.
a man. Tom and I have kept in touch too since the podcast.
Really?
And he's helped me on some stuff. Yeah.
He's very smart.
My point is, I think our most listened to podcast, because people are starving for this information, or podcasts like this one.
Well, it's something that people struggle with,
Right.
and they're looking for that silver bullet.
Absolutely.
And really, there are a lot of little small silver bullets in selling life insurance and phrases, and words,
verbiage. Getting people to that light bulb go off in their brain and go, oh.
Well, one thing Tom talks about too is use words like optimal retirement.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily, I don't want to say big words, but big words. They're power words is what they are. That's the correct term. So anyway, continue.
I'm going to steal your pen and paper.
Please.
Thank you.
And now I have it directly from the man. Anybody wants a copy of this? Yeah. Whatever page you want to use.
We're getting real here, folks.
All right. So what I'll do when I'm sitting down with somebody, and again, have the conversation with them like, look, I just want to take you through kind of financial planning 101 just to make sure that the bases are covered and that, we're adding as much value as we can. And so I'll ask people, say, so you build a financial plan like you build a house. What's the first thing you do when you build a house?
Foundation.
And again, it's important. It is very important that you ask the questions, get them to answer the questions.
Right. You're now a trial lawyer
We will put a link to what he's drawing in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
You're a trial lawyer trying to get somebody to walk themselves into the answer.
Yeah, I'll say, look, you build a financial plan like you build a house. What's the first thing you do when you build a house? People say build a foundation. You say, right. Why does it make sense to build a house on a foundation as opposed to just the dirt? And some of these questions are stupid, and people look at you like you're crazy, and they'll be like, well, it needs something sturdy to sit on. And you're like, right. If you build it on the sand and the good rain comes by and washes out the sand, then in goes the house, right? So you got to build it on a strong foundation. And say, so in our financial world, there are 6 bricks to your financial foundation. And so before we start moving on, too many people jump the gun and they want to start going on to, retirement planning and everything else when they don't have a strong financial foundation. And so you're building a roof on a house that's sitting on the sand. Right. So I'll go into, I say, look, here's your foundation. Your 6 bricks are down here, but we're going to start at the top and work our way down. So from now until retirement, it's all about growth. How do we take our money and grow it as quickly as possible, as safely as possible to get to here, which is your retirement, as soon as possible? From your retirement until your death, it's all about income. How do we take our assets and distribute them to ourselves in a manner that gives us the income we need to be able to live the lifestyle that we want, but without the fear of outliving our money? That is people's biggest fear, is outliving their money. So growth, income, retirement. This is your distribution phase. How do we distribute our money to ourselves? Just below it, your wealth accumulation phase. This is making your money work for you. This is your investing and retirement planning and wealth accumulation, right?
And is this during your prime income earning years too?
So from the day you start working and saving for retirement until the day you retire, it's wealth accumulation, or even in retirement. But point is that you're doing this to get to here as soon as you can, right? And so this is very important. Or you'll never make it to the distribution phase, right? So you can't. This has to be a part of it. But you can't do this and forsake these, and I'll show you why. So. Say down here you have your property casualty insurance. So this is important what I'm about to say, guys. You have your property and casualty insurance, so your home and auto. And say, would you say that your home is your biggest asset?
Yes.
How much is your home worth? Just make up.
Mine, $125,000.
$125,000
because I'm downsizing.
Okay. So your home is worth.
I'm about to get right with the Lord at my house.
I hear you.
Yeah, we're about to get down and dirty.
Man, I hear you.
I just bought a $125,000 house with 5 acres of property.
Ooh-wee.
And my mortgage each month is going to be $1,000, and I'm getting rid of all of my worldly possessions so that I can travel around the world. But anyway, I digress.
Amen.
I digress.
I hear you.
I digress.
So point is, and it can be whatever number. So let's say somebody says 200,000 or something like that. So say, okay, your home is worth $200,000. I assume that you insure your home for at least its full amount, correct?
Correct.
Why does it make sense to insure your largest asset for its full value as opposed to, let's say, half its value?
Because if something happens to that house, I want to be paid back the value of that home so that I can replace it.
Right. Half a house doesn't do you any good, does it?
No.
If a house burns down, if your $200,000 house burns down and you get a check for $100,000,
you're screwed.
What you doing?
You're screwed.
Right? You want to insure it for at least its full amount.
Forcibly downsizing.
Yes.
Right. So it makes sense to protect your, and again, guys, these questions are deliberate and important.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense to insure your largest asset for its full amount, correct?
Correct.
Right. So here's your home and auto. You want to make sure your home and your house and your car are insured, so that way if something happens to the car, somebody's writing you a check
Correct.
to replace that asset. Here's your health insurance. Same deal. You get a $100,000 medical bill. Hopefully somebody else is writing you a check for at least the majority of the
You got to have it, or
bill.
you're filing for bankruptcy.
That's right.
Yep.
The two income stoppers is life insurance and disability. No amount of money replaces a person. You are not replaceable, but your income can be. So how, and just make up a number. How much do you make a year? Say 50,000.
50,000.
50,000. All right. So you make $50,000 a year. Do you plan on working for the next 20 years or so, maybe?
Absolutely.
All right. So over the next 20 years, you will produce $1 million.
I am the literal goose that lays the golden egg.
That's right.
Yeah.
So over the next 20 years, assuming your income does not go up at all, you will produce over the next 20 years at $50,000 a year $1 million for your family.
Correct.
So you over the next 20 years are worth $1 million, but your home is worth $200,000. So I ask you again: is your home or is your potential to earn income your biggest asset?
My potential.
Right.
By far.
You are your biggest asset.
By
You
far.
are you and your family's biggest asset. So are you insuring yourself for the full value of your earning potential?
No.
Probably not, right? And say,
No.
we'll cover this in just a minute. We're going to do a life insurance need calculation, but you understand where I'm getting with that, right?
I do.
Same thing with disability insurance. If you become disabled and cannot work, whether that be for a couple months or a couple years or forever, where's the money coming from? It's not, right? So you that's why you have disability, hopefully through work. If not, you need to get it outside of work. But point is that somebody else is writing you a check if you are no longer making money. Here is your emergency fund.
Right.
Rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months worth of bills sitting around somewhere.
Right.
That if crap hits the fan, somebody loses a job, big unexpected bill, you have money sitting there that you can make ends meet until until
you're not having to file for bankruptcy and move into an apartment.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So very important, and that's very often overlooked. Here I say will, but this is really your estate planning. So will, living will, powers of attorney, both healthcare and financial.
Right.
If you wanted to include a umbrella policy in there to protect yourself from lawsuits or things like that, that can be in there as well.
And guys, I'll let Andrew answer this. Average will, and I'm just talking for you guys. I'm not talking about what you're talking to your clients about. Average will from like a small town attorney is what, $250, $300?
Oh, it's super cheap.
Yeah.
But there's even things like, not to plug in, there's even things like Legal Shield, which I do not sell Legal Shield, but I'm just saying there are even things like that where it's like $20-something a month, and clients can get their will and powers of attorney done, and there's other services that they offer and stuff like that. But so I'm just saying, at least you be the person to let them know, like, yeah, you can go see an attorney and it's this, but if they're super cost sensitive, say, look, well, there's things like Legal Shield where you can go, it's $20 a month and you can get that done. But say, so we want to make sure that there are no cracks in your foundation before we start aggressively moving on to the next step.
Right.
So your property casualty insurance, I assume you have home and auto, correct?
Yes.
When was the last time you had that shopped out?
Been 3 years ago.
Okay. So it's been a while. And when was the last time when you did that, did you just shop out based on price, or did you have somebody actually look at your policies and tell you what you have?
I've got I Protect Insurance, and they call me every year and do a on your side review.
There you go.
Yeah,
I
right.
like it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you're on top of that.
Yep.
All right. So we can check the box off there. Health insurance, I assume you have through work,
Absolutely.
right?
Blue
All
Cross
right.
Blue Shield.
Check. All right, we're going to do a life insurance need calculation here in just a minute.
Okay.
Disability insurance you have through work,
Nope.
correct? Nope. So do you have it outside of work?
I have workers' comp, but
Okay.
I don't have disability insurance per se.
All right, that's something that we need to address at some point
Right.
too. So cracking your foundation there.
Right.
Emergency fund. Would you say you have 3 to 6 months worth of bills in the savings account?
I would say I have 2 to 3 months.
Okay. So would you agree that that's something that we need to kind of
Absolutely.
focus on bumping up?
Absolutely.
And some people have a magic number. Some people have a rounded, X amount of dollars would make me as my warm and fuzzy number.
Right.
That's
Guys, that's a pretty simple calculation. You just have them add up all their monthly bills they've got to pay,
Yep.
plus living expenses, groceries, eats, all that good stuff. Take that on a monthly basis and multiply it times 6, and that's the number they really need.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so you can either go through right them and do a kind of a just a really simple budget with them and just kind of ask them and write it down and take the time to do it. There's plenty of budgeting
Right.
stuff online and little Excel spreadsheets and stuff where you can send it to them and say, hey, fill this out, and then that way we know.
Right.
Either way, point is you need to add some value there. So again, emergency fund isn't anything that you do or you're getting paid on.
Right.
But the point is that you're providing value there to say you need to do that. And you also need to tell them this is an emergency fund that isn't an emergency/vacation fund,
right?
Not an emergency/boat fund.
Mm-hmm.
This is if crap hits the fan,
right,
we can make ends meet. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then say your will. So again, will, powers of attorney, things like that. Do you have a will and powers of attorney?
I do, but most people don't.
Okay. So if somebody says no, say, okay, well then do you know an attorney that you can go meet with and get that done? And if they say no, then you need to have a relationship with an attorney.
Mayor of your village, guys.
Right. And look, it's not about getting referrals from that attorney. It is to make you the trusted advisor and connector to say, look, I know that I have a good relationship, and make sure you vet this person, meet with them, have a relationship with them, know they're going to do a good job for your clients, because if they don't, that reflects back on you. But say, great, well, I know an attorney you can go meet with and get that done, or have you ever heard of Legal Shield? You can do it that way. Find somebody that sells it, or look it up online or whatever. But point is to say, all right, so if you don't have an emergency fund, or at least not where you want it, you don't have a will. So these are all cracks in your foundation.
Correct.
Would you agree that it makes sense to fill the cracks in before you start pumping money into your wealth accumulation side?
Right.
All right, so let's say that how long would it take you to save up, the average person, just pretend you're the average person, how long would it take you to save up $50,000?
A year.
A year?
Yeah.
The average person?
I don't know. I don't know what the average person.
Most
would
people
say.
probably 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
Most people probably at least 5 to 10 years.
Right.
All right. Just kind of the average person. So say let's say it's 10.
Right.
All right. So it took you 10 years to save up $50,000 in your wealth accumulation phase, but then you didn't have disability insurance and you become disabled. How long does $50,000 last?
Is there an average if you Googled that?
Most people would say maybe a year.
Yeah, I would say about a year.
Yeah, maybe a year, something like that, and say, okay, so it took you 10 years to save up $50,000, and because you didn't have a disability policy, it's gone in a year. 10 years of hard work and saving, gone in a year because you didn't have that taken care of. Life insurance, you die. How long does $50,000 last your family? Does it pay off your house? Does it replace
Absolutely
1
not.
year of income?
No.
What are they going to do after that, right?
Right.
So let's do a quick life insurance need calculation. So if you were to have to, and again, just pretend you're the average person.
Right.
If you were to have to write a check to pay off all the debts that you would want taken care of, including your house,
Right.
what's that number?
$300,000.
$300,000. And so you write down $300,000 on the piece of paper. All right, so you have one child, right?
Do.
All right, you're saving for his college?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're no longer here to work and save for your college, how much money do you want sitting aside for him, whether it be for college or a head start to life or whatever?
$75,000.
$75,000. So you write down $75,000. And right beside these numbers, you write what they are.
Right.
So debt for the $300,000, for the $75,000, you write down children or child next to it, and say, so the big one that people often overlook is replacement of income. So you make $50,000 per year.
Right.
How long do you want your family, your wife and son, to continue to get your if you plan on working for the next 10 or 20 years, how long do you want them to continue to get your income as if you're still here working and earning it?
30 years.
30 years. Okay. So 50,000 times 30 is 1.5 million. So guys, you add those numbers up, that's $1.875 million life insurance need. And then you ask them, does that sound like too much, not enough, just right?
Sounds like a lot.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
So
do you hear that a lot?
yes.
Yeah.
And so it's shocking to people how much life insurance they actually need. And and I'm like, well, that's why I asked you these questions, because I wanted these to be your numbers.
Right.
So remember, if you want to calculate again, $300,000 is to pay off house and whatever other debt that you want taken care of, $75,000 for your child, and then replacing your income for 30 years for your family.
Right.
So to do that, it's going to take $1.875 million.
Right.
So do you still feel like it's too much? And if it is, if people say, yeah, that just is too much. Yeah. Well, then bump it down to whatever, to 1.5, 1.25.
You just ask them, what number would you be comfortable with?
There you go.
Right.
And and then at some
And
point
then they say $1 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But if you would have walked in and told them you need $1 million worth of coverage, they would have looked at you like you're crazy.
Right.
But if per their numbers, their life insurance need is 1.8 some odd million dollars, and then because of budgetary constraints or whatever, they had to knock it down to $1 million. That's still $1 million more life insurance than they had them before they walked in your office.
So what are you doing after they give you the number, and then you guys come up with a number, kind of, hey, well, okay, this is too much, so what do you think you need? And they say $1 million. What's the next step for you? Is it starting to go over the process of what policies are available to them?
Yeah, so I'll usually say, well, do you understand the difference between term and whole life?
And what's your answer? What is your example there?
So I'll usually equate it to like renting versus owning your home.
Right.
That's an easy analogy, and say, all right, so if you, and that's what I say. I say term is like renting, whole life is like owning your home.
Right.
So, if you were to rent your home, do you think that your rent would stay the same forever, or do you think it would go up at some point?
Right.
It's going to go up at some point. If you wanted to live in the house forever, it's going to go up at some point. And say, so, most terms, 10, 20, maybe 30-year term, the price is the same. So it's like you worked out a deal with your landlord to say, my rent is not going to go up for 20 years. Same thing with the term insurance. My price will be the same for 20 years. Year 21 rolls around. Do you think your landlord would keep the price the same, or you think it'd go up pretty good? Pretty good, right? So, or you got to be cool with moving out of the house.
Exactly.
So you just got to understand, if I have a 20-year term, you got to be cool with moving out after 20 years.
Yeah, because if you get a term policy that's 30 years old, a 30-year term, and it takes you out to age 70, you ain't getting life insurance.
No.
When that deal's over, the deal's over.
Yeah, and there's like a 97% chance you're going to outlive it.
There is a 99.2% chance that your term policy is not going to pay out because either you outlive it, or you convert it, or you drop it.
Wow.
99.2% chance.
Write that shit down, people.
So point is that, and you need to tell them, say, okay, so you have this life insurance.
Do you tell them that?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. And so all right, you have a 20-year term.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this $1 million worth of life insurance do you feel like you're going to need after 20 years? Do you feel like you're going to need none or some? And it's a lot of people don't know and say, well, look, you have a lot of earning years ahead of you right now. The kids are still young. So in 20 years, kids should be off the payroll. You have 20 less working years ahead of you, right? Hopefully a lot of the debts are paid down. So you might not need $1 million, but maybe need a couple $100,000.
Right.
So that's the portion that you would want to get in something permanent. And say, so whole life is like owning your home. If you own your home, the payments are going to be the same forever. At some point, you're going to be able to move out, or at some point, you're going to be able to stop paying the premium or the mortgage because it's going to pay for itself at some point, depending on what kind of product you're putting them in. And saying you can live in the house forever, and it's yours, and it has, you have equity in the home. It's worth something to you, right? So that's kind of like whole life. So, again, term. So and I tell them it's a cost versus value proposition. On cost, term will win every day. On value, whole life will win every day. But for you to get $1 million worth of whole life, you might really love whole life and only want whole life. But for you to get $1 million worth of whole life, it's probably out of the budget for you.
Right.
So whatever the budget is, we can get as much whole life as we can afford, and then we make up the rest in term because it's going to be cheap, and then we can always convert more term down the road as your
circumstances change,
right? And say, but we make sure you have the $1 million worth of coverage that you need.
So I've got one more question for you before we have to get off this podcast, and Bradley, please I want another podcast just like this, where instead of going over the building blocks and the foundation, we talk about more of the
wealth accumulation.
The wealth accumulation part.
Guys, I have some great when it comes to tax and things.
Send us a check for $9.99 and we'll give you access to that. I'm kidding.
So my last question of the day, and I'm speaking on behalf of 250,000 insurance agents out here.
Seriously, if you guys want to see that though, send us a DM on Instagram, Facebook, email, whatever, and we'll hook you up with Andrew, and you can maybe give it to him in person.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of PNC agents, when they do ask about life insurance, say over the phone, the question I mentioned earlier of, well, who do you have your life insurance with? Which is nothing more than kicking the ball off the tee.
Right.
It's just starting the conversation.
Right.
The answer they get 70% of the time is, oh, I have it through work.
Yep.
And what is your response when you hear people start that?
So I usually ask them to say, do you know how that works? And they say, well, most people are just like, no, not really. So, and I'll get into, so first of all, you realize that it's a group term and it's super cheap. I say, get as much as you can through work.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's usually
like the 401k match.
Right.
You might as well do it.
Get as much as you can. That's probably the cheapest amount of term, the cheapest term you'll ever get. Get as much as you can, but realize that 90-something% of the time, that life insurance goes away when you leave. So if you get fired, laid off, quit, retire, that usually goes away, right?
Or you're in a job for, say, 20 years.
Right.
You get laid off. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this
all
happen.
the time.
Yeah. you get laid off from AT&T at year number 19.
Yep.
And human resources calls you and they say what? They say, would you like to convert your group plan, life insurance plan, to an individual plan?
Right.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if you say, yes, I would, then don't they reevaluate that based on your current age that you are now?
Yes.
And so that $13.50 policy that you had that was $500,000, they'll convert it to $500,000 at that.
You're going to be paying for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they cap, 9 times out of 10, they cap how much you can get through work. So if you have $1 million life insurance need and they cap you at $300,000, what you doing?
Right.
Where you going to get? You have to get a certain amount out of work.
Right.
And so again, give them a story. So I had a client, or I had a person call the office, and they wanted to get life insurance. She wanted to get life insurance on her husband because her late husband always had life insurance through work. 2 kids, always had life insurance through work. He gets laid off. He dies 10 days after that life insurance had lapsed. So they were left with nothing. So she goes, that's why I always make sure to get life insurance outside of work. So my husband has some through work, but I'm getting some on his ass outside of work because I ain't letting that happen to him again. But people got to learn stuff the hard way. So I'm sure her friends that have never thought about that saw her go through that, now go to their husbands and go, your ass is getting some life insurance through work. You need to call your buddy, whoever that sells life insurance, and your ass is getting it. All right. But it takes that kind of stuff. So again, it's our job to educate people because nobody else is educating them.
Right.
So if they're not getting it from you, they're getting it from somebody else, or they're not getting it at all. So it needs to be coming from you. So they always come to you. So you don't lose them as a client. So you're not commoditizing yourself, and you're not just some guy that they got no qualms about leaving. You're a trusted advisor. You're a friend. You're the guy that they go to. You're the guy that helped them with this, And I couldn't tell you how many stories I have of somebody that we got life insurance on that shortly after, young people, shortly after, had one got diagnosed with cancer, and they have a number of other issues that would then make them uninsurable.
Right.
One guy, so he was going through the process on his life insurance, and like right after it got approved, he texted me from the hospital and goes, hey, so where are we at on the life insurance? I didn't know he was in the hospital. And I said, yeah, man, you got approved, whatever, I'll get with you. And so when I went to go deliver the policy, he goes, I texted you from the hospital. I had a blood clot in my leg, and his wife is in the medical industry, and she's like, if we wouldn't have caught it, and they have 2 kids, I might have been dead. Right. So it was very important. So he's one of those guys, most guys especially. I mean, I almost had to kind of talk him into getting the life insurance. Like, it's important, dude. You need to get it. But then at that moment, he was like, that's what I was thinking about.
Right. It became important to him.
It became important because his mortality was in question.
It's the only thing you can't buy when you need it.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I absolutely, guys, listen to this question again. So you're talking to one of your clients, you ask the question, where do you have your life insurance? Well, 70% of the time they're going to say, well, my husband has it through work, or I've got it through work. Andrew just gave you the follow-up question to that. The next question needs to be, well, do you know how that works?
That's it. And just let them go.
And they're going to say, well, I just assumed he had it through work. And that's going to probably be their answer because they don't know.
Yeah. And you just say, and that's where, like it leaves, when you leave, it leaves.
Right.
Do you know how much he has? Have you done a life insurance need calculation? And I'll say this too, and just not to throw a wrench in that, but there again, if I ask somebody, I feel like personally, so that might work for a lot of people, but I personally don't know if I would use that approach because there again, they know right off the bat, if you want to be alone at a party, tell people you sell life insurance, right? So I don't ever lead with like, who do you have your life insurance through, how much it's worth, whatever. I again would like to lead with, hey, look, we're changing our process. We want to take our clients through just kind of a brief financial planning foundation process, just make sure that our clients are taken care of. And you can kind of say, like, we've had some things go on with some clients that could have been easily avoided if they would have gone through this process first. So now we're calling all clients and make sure they go through the process. So that way people are going, because they might go, well, I don't need to go through that process. But if you say, we recently had some clients that had some very serious problems that could have been avoided if they would have gone through this process. So now we're making sure that we're doing this for all our clients.
Right.
And so that makes it go, oh.
What's your demographic? When the majority of the people that you meet, is it all over the board, or is it like 35 to 55, or what is it?
Yeah, so it's kind of all over the board. So I'm 31. So a lot of people that I talk to kind of by default are around my age, and especially earlier on in my career. But so I would say the majority are probably still younger, but I have a fair amount that are retirement-ish age, 50 to 70. And then I work with some business owners who, of course, are kind of young and old. But
and what is your lead process like? Like, are you cold calling, or is it just referrals now, one right after another?
Yeah, let me tell you what, guys. At the beginning, if you could fog a mirror, I was trying to get in front of you. You know what I mean? Regardless of, the
phone book was your lead process.
I grew up in Pensacola, and my family did and everything, so I knew a lot of people by default. But I asked everybody. If I vaguely recognized your name or face, or if I could get your phone number, I was calling you, and I was going to call you.
What was your lead? What was the first thing you said to them after hello and how you doing today? What was the first thing you kicked the ball off?
If it was just cold and it was somebody that I knew, we'd chit chat and we'd do all that, and then I would say, well, look, man, I don't know if you know. This is what I do. Love to meet with you sometime. If I can help you, great. If not, that's okay. But, I would just love to meet with you. If I can't help you, we're both out an hour of our time.
Right.
If I can, well, then great. If it was a referral, obviously, hey, so-and-so referred me to you. And let me tell you this, follow-up, guys. Follow up with these people, especially referrals, is very key.
I'm horrible at follow-up.
And you're missing. There's a lot of dollars flying out the window because of the lack of follow up. And
but it's the right amount of follow up too.
That's
you
right.
Don't want to be.
Well,
you don't want to be the old Northwestern Mutual guy that's
Groundhog Day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't want to be.
Well, and I've been complimented. And look, for as many times as I've been complimented by people, there's probably 5 people out there that were, aggravated that I called them as often as I did. But I've been complimented multiple times by clients like, you did a great job. You didn't bug me, but you always stayed on top of me.
Okay, with that said, what is the right amount of follow-up?
When I get a brand new name, depending on if I get in touch with them, so I'll call them maybe once or twice a week until I can get them. Until, if I can't get them, then it goes to once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. Nobody comes off the calendar. They just get moved to a further date. If they ask me to call them at a specific time, I will call them at that specific time.
Right.
And I used to go up to the office on Sunday afternoons and make phone calls and do stuff for 4 or 5 hours. I'd just sit there and hammer out the phone. It comes to a point, like there was a girl I got as a referral. First time I called her, hey, so-and-so referred me. This is what I do. Not interested. Okay, you mind if I call you in 6 months? Sure. Probably thinking I would never call her. Called her in 6 months. Not interested. Cool.
And I always remind them.
Yeah,
I'm calling you like I said I would, or like you told me to.
That's exactly right. And they're shocked a lot of times.
And even if they didn't tell you to, it's like, oh, okay. Well, I got to listen to this.
4 years. 4 years of calling her every 6 months.
Wow.
I called her one time. She goes, yeah, you know what? We do need to meet. Right?
Right,
the not interested stuff is just not interested now.
Strategically stay in front of them.
It's timing, guys. Timing is important because at some point, the people aren't going to be interested right now. But then something is going to happen at some point. People's are just going to mature and say, yeah, I do need to do this shit. Or something happened or whatever. But the timing at some point, how much time did I have involved? I called them for a 30 to 60 second phone call twice a year for 4 years. I had 8 minutes in this. You know what I'm saying? And then finally I called her. So it's not like I'm spending a lot of time. You're not. It's just I'm putting it on the calendar later today. I'll call you. You answer. You don't. Doesn't matter. At some point, I'm going to get you, and you're going to become a client.
Does the closing ratio on what you do in terms of life insurance and financial services, does it go up or down, or is it about the same when you deal with a wife or the husband or both? Like if it's the wife initiating this, is that a higher close ratio, or when you walk into a house and it's a husband-wife combo there? Are you trying to pay more attention to the wife, knowing that deep down she's making this decision rather than the husband?
You should absolutely try to pay equal attention to the two.
Sure.
Now, at a certain point, you can tell one person is more involved than the other because they're more engaged or asking more questions or whatever. Sure. So then you can start, directing your attention to them more, but don't forget about the other person and just act like they're not there.
Right.
But
I can't tell you how many times that happens to my wife. And it pisses her off when we go somewhere.
Yeah, and nobody's paying attention.
Like if we went to a car dealership, I think there was one time we went somewhere. I don't remember.
They
where
act like
it was.
She's not even there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we're both sitting in front of this person, And they are just directing every bit of their attention to me. They never ask her a question, hardly look at her.
Well, you're not noticeable in a room at all.
I know. But I'm saying you can really piss some people off if you walk in and you're
wearing a cowboy hat,
and you immediately identify that decision maker,
Right.
And then now you just leave the other person out of the equation.
do that.
Yeah, you can't do that because and I will say this. I mean, I have some clients that really one party, the wife or husband, just really could care less.
Right.
And the other one is really the decision maker. And while you should, still direct, still look at them, maybe not directly ask them questions, but when you're saying something, still look at them because the other one's still paying attention.
Right.
But I will say if both are engaged, pulling on the strings of the wife makes a lot of sense because let's be real, the wife has a lot of sway over the husband. Maybe it's behind the scenes, but she's the one kind of tugging at his ear, and I was listening to or reading something the other day that this financial advisor, a large part of their practice was whether so if they were a business owner, their assistant or whatever, they would spend a lot of time with the assistant, remember their birthdays, remember their stuff, send them gifts, do all that. Their wife, even if they've never really met with their wife, remember their birthdays, send them stuff, do nice things for them. The people that are in this decision maker's ear, they're the ones if you're a dick to the assistant,
right,
and then you're great to and every time when you leave and walk out, they're like, I don't know why you deal with that guy. He's such a dick. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or
versus
I
just love Andrew.
Yeah, they go, yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. Guys, I'm going to shut this podcast down now. Andrew, maybe the best podcast we've ever had.
Definitely the most useful information.
I'll tell you what.
Wow, guys,
I'll tell you what.
Around this subject.
Awesome.
Guys, today is Thursday. I made a commitment to this podcast this year that every single podcast we do, we are going to get down in the dirt, and we are going to give you guys so much actionable content that you will not have a choice but listen to this podcast. And let me tell you, my friend and great American Andrew here today has done as good a job as anybody I have ever seen of doing exactly that. You have no excuses anymore. I have no more excuses anymore. I challenge you today, listen to this podcast about 3 times, write all this shit down, and go start making money for your family, go start making money for your kids, go take care of your clients, because I know from personal experience there has been about once or twice a year I have a client call my office. It's usually the wife, and she'll say, "Hey Scott, my name's Stacy Johnson, and my husband just died of a brain aneurysm, and I just wanted to see if he had any life insurance." If you want to feel like an asshole, guys, check in your agency management system and find out he doesn't have any life insurance, and now she's sitting at home by herself with 3 kids and no job, and they don't even know how they're going to pay for the damn funeral. And if that happens, you're an asshole. I'm just telling you, you're an asshole for not at least, if nothing else, asking the question.
And they're not going to blame you, but they are going to go, in the back of their mind, whether they never say it, they're going to go, why didn't he bring that up?
Yep.
Why didn't we talk about that?
Yep. Guys, go write good business for the companies you represent. Go write good business for the agencies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of The Insurance Guys. Take care.